You did not find this message by accident. Stop scrolling for just a moment, because something deeper than coincidence brought you here today. There is a reason your heart feels unsettled right now. There is a reason you almost clicked away, but didn't. Heaven has been trying to reach you. And before you make the next decision, before you send that message, before you react out of pain, frustration, or loneliness, you need to hear this first. Don't touch it. God is already moving behind the scenes. Beloved, I know you have been carrying something heavy in silence. You have replayed the conversation in your head 100 times. You have imagined what you want to say, how you want to defend yourself, how badly you want to fix what feels broken. Part of you wants to reach back out. Part of you wants answers. Part of you is tired of waiting. But there is a reason your spirit has felt restrained lately. That hesitation is not weakness. It is divine protection. If you are being honest, you have felt it for days now. That strange pause. That invisible hand stopping you every time you try to force things forward. You thought maybe it was fear, maybe confusion. But what if it was God protecting you from interfering with something only He can repair? What if the delay frustrating you right now is the very thing saving you from deeper pain later? Listen carefully, because this is urgent. If you are about to give up, if you are about to send that emotional message, if you are about to return to a door God already closed, wait, breathe. Be still for a moment longer. Heaven sees everything you cannot see. While you have been crying in private, wondering why nothing is changing, God has been arranging things in ways your human eyes could never fully understand. Some battles are not won by chasing, begging, explaining, or proving yourself. Some battles are won by stepping back and letting God work where your hands cannot reach. And that is exactly why you were led here today. Not to panic, not to react, but to listen. Because what you are calling rejection may actually be redirection. What you are calling silence may actually be preparation. And what feels delayed right now may become the very testimony that changes your life forever. So, before you do anything else, stay here until the end. This message may be the warning, the confirmation, and the peace your soul has been praying for. There is something you keep wanting to touch, even after God has quietly told you to let it go. Deep down, you already know what it is. Maybe it is the relationship you keep trying to revive, even though every attempt leaves you more exhausted. Maybe it is the argument you still want to win, the message sitting unsent in your phone, the explanation you keep rehearsing in your head at 2 in the morning. Part of you believes that if you could just say the right words, if you could just make them finally understand your heart, everything would change. But beloved, listen carefully. Not every situation is meant to be repaired by your hands. You have been carrying the pressure to fix everything for so long that silence now feels unnatural to you. When someone misunderstands you, your instinct is to defend yourself. When someone walks away, your instinct is to chase closure. When doors close unexpectedly, your instinct is to force them back open before the pain of rejection fully settles in. And honestly, you are tired. Tired of overthinking every conversation. Tired of replaying moments in your mind. Tired of wondering whether you should reach out one more time or finally walk away. But every time you get close to reacting, something stops you. You type the message, then erase it. You decide you are done waiting, then suddenly feel unsettled inside. You prepare yourself to confront them, to expose the truth, to defend your name, and then a strange stillness falls over your spirit. That is not confusion. That is not weakness. That is God placing His hand over yours and whispering, "Do not touch what I am already handling." Right now, your emotions are fighting against your obedience. One part of you wants immediate relief. You want answers now. You want justice now. You want clarity now. But heaven sees what your pain cannot see. God knows that one emotional reaction could reopen a wound he has been trying to heal. One impulsive decision could pull you back into a cycle he has been trying to free you from. One desperate attempt to control the outcome could delay the very breakthrough you have been praying for. Some of you have mistaken restraint for rejection. You thought God abandoned you because things became quiet. But what if the silence was protection? What if God was shielding you from information you are not ready for yet? What if He was preventing you from interfering with a process that requires His timing, not your pressure? Beloved, there are battles that cannot be won through human effort. No amount of explaining can force someone to value you correctly. No amount of chasing can make a closed heart suddenly love you well. No amount of defending yourself can heal people who already decided not to understand you. That is why God keeps asking you to release it. Not because your feelings are invalid, but because your soul is too valuable to keep bleeding over situations He never intended you to carry forever. And yes, I know it hurts. It hurts to stay silent when lies are being spoken about you. It hurts to watch people move on while you are still healing. It hurts to feel misunderstood, unseen, and emotionally trapped between wanting to let go and wanting one final answer. But hear this clearly today. God is not ignoring your pain. He is protecting your future. If He is keeping your hands away from something, there is a reason. If every attempt to force things forward keeps collapsing, there is a reason. If you feel held back every time you are about to react emotionally, there is a reason. Heaven is trying to save you from touching something that would only bring more chaos into your life. So breathe. Step back. Let God do what only He can do. Because the moment you stop trying to control everything may become the moment true healing finally begins. One of the hardest things to accept is that God sometimes says not yet, long before He says yes. And when you are standing in the middle of a delayed season, it can feel deeply personal. You wonder why doors keep closing, why opportunities disappear at the last second, why certain people drift away even after you prayed so hard for them to stay. But beloved, what if the delay was never punishment? What if it was protection? There are some blessings that would have destroyed you if they arrived too early. There are some doors you begged God to open that would have led you into exhaustion, confusion, and heartbreak because you were not yet prepared for what waited on the other side. At the time, all you saw was disappointment. But heaven saw the full picture. Think about a tree for a moment. Before it grows tall enough for others to admire, it first grows downward where nobody can see it. Its roots push deep into dark soil long before branches ever reach toward the sky. And if the growth above the surface happens faster than the roots below it, the first storm will destroy the entire tree. That is exactly what God has been protecting you from. While you have been frustrated by how slowly things seem to move, God has been strengthening the parts of you that must survive what is coming next. Some of you were asking for relationships that would have drained the life out of you. You thought you were ready because your heart was invested, but your spirit was still healing from wounds you had not fully faced. If God had allowed that connection to continue, you would have lost yourself trying to keep it alive. You call it rejection. God calls it rescue. Others were desperate for opportunities that looked perfect on the surface. The position, the promotion, the open door seemed like the answer to your prayers. But what you could not see were the hidden pressures attached to it, the anxiety it would have created, the people who would have slowly broken your peace. Sometimes God closes doors because He loves you too much to let you walk into environments that would quietly destroy your soul. Imagine an artist restoring a priceless painting. The surface is fragile. Every movement must be intentional. Someone impatient might look at the unfinished work and think nothing is happening. They might even try to help by touching the damaged areas themselves. But one careless touch could ruin details the artist spent years protecting. So the artist gently says, "Wait. Do not interfere with the process. Beloved, this is what heaven has been saying over your life. God is restoring things in you that nobody else can see yet. He is repairing your discernment, rebuilding your confidence, healing the exhaustion hidden beneath your smile, preparing your spirit for a future that requires greater wisdom, deeper peace, and stronger boundaries, and that kind of preparation cannot be rushed. The delay has not been empty. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every moment where you felt held back was shaping you in ways you will only understand later. One day you will look back and realize that what frustrated you most was actually the hand of God protecting you from arriving somewhere before your soul was ready to remain there safely. So if heaven has slowed you down, trust it. If God has kept certain things out of your reach, trust it. Delay is not always denial. Sometimes delay is mercy. Sometimes delay is preparation. And sometimes delay is the only thing standing between you and a future you were never meant to lose. There is a difference between being stuck and being held still by God, and many of you have confused the two for far too long. You think your life is falling behind because things have slowed down. You look around and see other people moving forward, getting opportunities, entering relationships, announcing new seasons, while you remain in what feels like silence. And if you are honest, part of you has started wondering whether something is wrong with you. But beloved, hear this carefully. Not every pause is punishment. Not every delay is failure. Sometimes God slows your life down because your soul needs healing more than your ego needs momentum. You think you are losing time, but God is stabilizing your spirit. You think you are being forgotten, but God is protecting you from building your future on a cracked foundation. You think nothing is happening, but heaven is doing deep work in places no human eye can see. Some of the most dangerous seasons in life are the ones where everything moves quickly while your inner world is falling apart. God knows that. That is why He sometimes leads you into quiet places before He leads you into bigger assignments. Because success without peace will eventually exhaust you. Relationships without healing will eventually break you. Open doors without wisdom will eventually overwhelm you. There are pauses that save lives. There are silent seasons that prevent destruction. There are moments where God intentionally removes noise because your heart can no longer survive constant pressure. You called it stagnation, but heaven called it recovery. Think about how exhausted you were before this season began, constantly overthinking, constantly reacting, constantly trying to hold everything together. You were smiling in public while silently falling apart inside. And then, suddenly, things slowed down. Certain people disappeared. Some doors closed. Plans changed. The pace became uncomfortable. But what if God was not taking something from you? What if He was rescuing you from becoming someone your soul could no longer sustain? Beloved, healing often feels unfamiliar because chaos became normal to you for so long. That is why silence now feels strange. Stillness makes you anxious because you spent years believing your worth depended on constant movement, constant proving, constant striving. But God is teaching you something deeper in this season. He is teaching you that your value does not decrease just because things became quiet. You think you are falling behind, but God is rebuilding your inner life. You think others are ahead of you, but God is strengthening your roots while others are surviving on appearances. You think the silence means abandonment, but sometimes silence is where the deepest restoration begins. And here is what you must understand. A person who is truly stuck feels drained, hopeless, disconnected from purpose. But a person being held still by God experiences something different beneath the discomfort. Even in the waiting, there is a strange pull toward peace. Even in the uncertainty, There is a quiet feeling that you are being protected from something you cannot fully explain yet. That is not failure. That is divine restraint. So stop condemning yourself for slowing down. Stop assuming every quiet season means you missed your destiny. Some pauses are holy. Some delays are healing. And some moments of stillness become the exact turning points that save your life from paths you were never meant to continue walking. Right now, while you are sitting in confusion, wondering why nothing seems to be changing, God is doing more behind the scenes than you could possibly imagine. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean heaven is inactive. Some of the most important things God does happen in silence, far away from human eyes, in places your emotions cannot reach. You do not see it, but God is already moving people out of positions that were blocking your path. You do not see it, but conversations are shifting in rooms you have never entered. You do not see it, but hearts that once resisted you are slowly being softened. And while you have been grieving what did not happen, heaven has been protecting you from outcomes that would have broken you later. Beloved, there is a reason God asked you to stop forcing things, because while you were trying to hold one small piece together, He was preparing an entirely different future that your current pain could not yet understand. In the middle of your tears, God has been opening doors you have not even discovered yet. In the middle of your silence, God has been exposing hidden dangers you were never meant to walk into. In the middle of your waiting, God has been arranging restoration with a precision no human effort could ever accomplish. You thought everything ended when that person walked away. But what if their departure created room for something healthier to finally enter your life? You thought the closed door meant rejection. But what if that closed door was the very thing standing between you and years of emotional exhaustion? You thought the delay meant God forgot you. But what if the delay was actually God aligning timing, people, and circumstances so the blessing would not destroy you when it arrived? There are things happening right now that your eyes are simply not ready to see yet. While you are crying over what left, God is preparing what fits. While you are replaying old conversations in your mind, God is creating new opportunities beyond what you lost. While you are worried about who rejected you, heaven is guiding you toward people who will recognize your value without you begging for it. That is why the enemy keeps trying to convince you to panic. Because panic makes people interfere with miracles before they fully unfold. Fear makes people reopen doors God already closed. Anxiety makes people run back toward situations heaven was trying to deliver them from. But God is asking you to trust what He is doing even when you cannot trace every detail. Think about how many times in your life something did not work out, only for you to realize later it was protecting you all along. At the time, it felt painful. At the time, it felt unfair. But eventually, you saw the truth. And beloved, the same thing is happening now. You do not see it, but God is removing hidden traps from your future. You do not see it, but He is disconnecting you from environments that would slowly drain your peace. You do not see it, but He is restoring parts of your identity that pain tried to erase. Some of you are about to walk into blessings that require a stronger version of you than the one who first prayed for them. That is why this season feels so uncomfortable. God is not only changing your circumstances, He is changing your capacity. He is teaching you how to carry peace without fear, how to receive love without desperation, how to enter new doors without losing yourself trying to stay there. And here is the beautiful part. While you thought you were forgotten, heaven never stopped working on your behalf for a single second. Every prayer you whispered in exhaustion was heard. Every tear cried in silence was seen. Every moment you resisted the urge to react emotionally mattered more than you realize. Because each time you chose restraint over panic, trust over control, and faith over fear, you made room for God to move in ways human effort never could. So do not mistake silence for abandonment. Do not mistake delay for defeat. And do not mistake stillness for emptiness. Because right now, behind doors you cannot yet open, and beyond conversations you cannot yet hear, God is preparing something far greater than what you thought you lost. And when it finally unfolds, you will understand why heaven kept telling you, do not touch it. Let me finish what I started. There was a time when you reacted to everything immediately. Every misunderstanding demanded a response. Every accusation felt like a battle you had to win. Every delay made you anxious. You carried this constant pressure to explain yourself, defend your heart, and make sure nobody misunderstood your intentions. And honestly, it exhausted you more than you realized. You stayed awake, replaying conversations in your head. You thought about what you should have said differently. You imagined perfect responses hours after the moment had already passed. Your mind rarely rested because your spirit was trapped in survival mode, constantly trying to control outcomes that were never fully yours to control in the first place. But something inside you has started changing. Slowly, quietly, almost without you noticing, God has been teaching you how to release your grip on things that were draining your peace. The old version of you would have reacted immediately. The old version of you would have chased answers, forced conversations, and fought desperately to be understood. But now, there are moments where you pause instead. You feel the tension rise in your chest, but instead of exploding, you breathe. You feel the urge to defend yourself, but instead of arguing, you become still. You feel the pressure to fix everything immediately, but instead of panicking, you slowly place it back into God's hands. That is not weakness, beloved. That is spiritual maturity beginning to grow inside of you. There is a different kind of strength that comes when a soul no longer needs to control every outcome. And God has been developing that strength within you through every silent season, every unanswered question, and every painful delay. Notice how your body has changed lately. Your shoulders are beginning to loosen. Your breathing is becoming softer. The constant tightness in your chest is no longer controlling every moment of your day. Your heart is learning that peace does not come from winning every argument or forcing every door open. Peace comes from trusting God enough to stop carrying burdens He never asked you to hold alone. Some of you are finally realizing that not every opinion about you deserves a response. Not every conflict deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected immediately. There are people committed to misunderstanding you, no matter how clearly you explain yourself. And chasing their approval only keeps your soul trapped in exhaustion. God is teaching you discernment. He is teaching you the difference between fighting for something meaningful and fighting simply because your pride feels wounded. Before, you thought silence meant losing. Now you are beginning to understand that silence can also mean wisdom. There is power in becoming calm enough to walk away from chaos. There is healing in no longer needing the final word. There is freedom in trusting that God can defend you better than anger ever could. Beloved, this season was never only about changing your circumstances. It was about changing your inner world. God has been teaching your spirit how to rest, how to slow down, how to stop reacting out of fear, how to release the addiction to control that anxiety quietly built inside you over the years. And as you let go, something beautiful begins to happen. Your mind becomes clearer, your heart becomes lighter, your spirit becomes steadier. You no longer feel the need to chase every answer, because deep down you are finally learning that God is already handling things you cannot see. So take a deep breath right now. Let your shoulders fall. Let your jaw unclench. Let your heart rest for a moment. You do not have to carry everything anymore. Some things heal only after you stop trying to control them. One day, without forcing anything, the truth will begin to speak for itself. The weight you have been carrying, the misunderstandings, the silent battles, the moments where you felt unseen and unfairly judged, they will not remain hidden forever. God has a way of bringing clarity without you having to fight for it. And when that moment comes, you will realize why heaven kept telling you to stay still. You will not need to explain yourself anymore. Right now, it feels difficult to imagine. Some of you have spent so much time trying to defend your intentions that silence almost feels dangerous. You worried that if you stopped explaining, people would believe the wrong story about you forever. You feared that stepping back meant losing your voice, your place, your value. But beloved, God never asked you to prove your worth to people determined not to see it correctly. There are things only time can reveal. There are truths only God can uncover. And there are seasons where your greatest act of faith is allowing heaven to defend you instead of exhausting yourself trying to manage everyone's perception of you. You do not see it yet, but situations are already shifting quietly behind the scenes. People who once misunderstood you will begin to see things differently. Conversations you were never included in will unexpectedly turn in your favor. Certain doors that seemed permanently closed will slowly reopen in ways you never planned. Opportunities you thought were lost forever may return wearing a completely different form. Not because you chased them, not because you forced them, but because God knows how to restore what belongs to you without confusion, manipulation, or desperation. Some of you are entering a season where peace will speak louder than explanation ever could. The calmness God has been building inside you will become evidence that healing has taken place. And, strangely, the very silence that once made you feel powerless will become the thing that protects your dignity the most. You will look back and realize that if God had allowed you to react emotionally in those painful moments, you might have damaged relationships, opportunities, or parts of your own character that were meant to survive this season intact. But instead, He taught you restraint. He taught you patience. He taught you how to trust Him with unfinished situations. And because of that, restoration is coming in a cleaner, deeper, and more lasting way. Beloved, restoration does not always arrive with loud announcements. Sometimes it begins quietly. A burden lifts from your spirit. A new opportunity appears unexpectedly. A conversation changes. A door opens at the exact moment you stopped obsessing over it. A kind of peace enters your life that no longer depends on who stayed, who left, or who finally apologized. That is when you understand something powerful. God was never only restoring circumstances. He was restoring you, your confidence, your peace, your ability to trust again without fear controlling everything. And one day, the people who thought your silence meant weakness may realize it was actually wisdom. The people who assumed you were losing may eventually understand that God was protecting you from battles they never knew existed. You will not have to announce your healing. The fruit of your life will reveal it naturally. You won't need to explain yourself anymore. The right people will see clearly, the right doors will open naturally, and the right season will arrive without you having to force a single thing. So, stop fearing that your story will end in misunderstanding. God knows how to restore reputations. He knows how to heal hidden wounds. He knows how to return peace to exhausted hearts. And when His restoration finally unfolds, it will carry a kind of certainty that human effort could never create. What God restores, no confusion can permanently destroy. And maybe this is the moment your soul finally stops fighting so hard. Not because everything has suddenly become perfect, not because every question has been answered, but because deep down, You are beginning to realize that you do not have to carry the weight of controlling everything anymore. God is holding what you cannot hold. He is watching over what you cannot fix. He is already standing in tomorrow while you are still worrying about today. Beloved, breathe slowly for a moment. Let your heart settle. Feel your shoulders relax just a little. You have spent so much time bracing yourself for disappointment that peace almost feels unfamiliar now. But heaven did not bring you this far just to abandon you in the middle of your healing. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to stop replaying every painful conversation in your mind. You are allowed to release the pressure to force answers, force clarity, force outcomes. Some things heal quietly when you finally place them into God's hands and stop reopening the wound every day. And maybe that is what your spirit has needed most. Not another explanation, not another sign, not another exhausting attempt to make everything work. Maybe what your soul truly needed was permission to rest again. Because the truth is, anxiety has made you feel responsible for things God never asked you to control. It convinced you that if you worried enough, thought enough, or reacted fast enough, you could somehow protect yourself from pain. But all it really did was leave your heart exhausted. Now God is teaching you something gentler. He is teaching you how to trust without seeing every detail, how to be still without panicking, how to rest while heaven continues working behind the scenes. You do not need to chase what God has already assigned to your life. You do not need to fear missing what heaven has prepared for you. What belongs to you will arrive in the right season, with the right peace, and without destroying your soul in the process. So tonight, let your breathing slow down. Let your thoughts become quieter. Let the fear loosen its grip on your chest. God has not lost control of your story. The waiting is not empty. The silence is not abandonment. And your life is not falling apart. You are simply being carried through a season where God is teaching your heart how to rest again. If this message brought peace to your spirit, even for a moment, quietly type Amen below as a sign that you are releasing your worries into God's hands and choosing to trust Him one step at a time. Before you leave, take one more deep breath and truly feel what God has been saying to your spirit through this message. You are not abandoned, you are not forgotten, and you are not falling behind, even if this season has felt slower than you expected. Heaven has been holding you together in ways you could not fully see until now. Maybe this message found you at the exact moment you were about to give up. Maybe you were seconds away from reopening a door God already closed. Maybe you were tired of waiting, tired of praying, tired of trying to stay strong while carrying silent battles nobody else understands. But tonight, let this be the moment you finally release the pressure to control everything. God is still working, even in silence, even in delay, even when nothing seems to make sense yet. And one day, you will look back and realize that this season was not destroying you, it was preparing you. So if this message spoke directly to your heart, type Amen in the comments below. Not as a habit, not because everyone else is doing it, but as a quiet declaration of faith, a sign that you are choosing to trust God even before you see the full outcome. A sign that you are placing your fears, your unanswered questions, and your future back into His hands. And if someone came to your mind while listening to this message, please share it with them. There are people silently carrying burdens they do not talk about. One message filled with hope can reach someone exactly when they need it most. Also, subscribe and stay connected to this journey of faith, healing, and spiritual encouragement. There are more messages coming for the seasons you are walking through right now, and sometimes one reminder from heaven can change the direction of an entire day. Most importantly, Do not lose your faith during the waiting. God has not stopped writing your story. What feels delayed is not denied. What feels quiet is not empty. And what feels uncertain today may become the testimony that strengthens you tomorrow. Stay still. Stay open. Stay faithful. And remember, you do not have to touch what God is already handling for you.